All right, CPD number 1, we want to talk about now your discussion, search, and share, how this gets started. With the first one here, it'll be a little more detailed and expand on some of the information, but again, these should give you a bunch of ideas and topics and resources, specifically talking leadership, management, examples, situational leadership, and then finishing up with developing an ethical business culture. Again, the discussion board, if you go to, for research start here, go to course tools on Canvas, guidance and resources, and you'll see a ton of links for your health law resources. That can be one option. Or you can go to the CPD guidance and discussion board project, where it'll give, again, information about what's expected, but also, again, some additional resources there. Just quick key points. Again, this is Project 3 Focus. Again, we talked about the 4 different business types. Again, you can be one or a combination of those. Again, specifically, you're going to need to address situational leadership theory. We'll talk a little bit about here, give you some ideas, but again, the textbook specifically with Project 3, you need to address that. You'll need to define leadership. You'll need to define management. You'll need to come up with some leadership goals and then specific strategies and objectives. And then last, some evaluation methods. Again, health law, that's your option. We've talked about this a ton, the 50+ full-time employees or 50 and under and how that's impacted. You can expand on that. And then lastly, again, hopefully you did the activity so you start to develop the components of your business organization vision. All right, some health law ideas, if that's your option with your discussion, search, and share, is again to look at leadership is for all, not the few, from the Economist article we started with. Again, the number one goal of the Affordable Care Act was to provide affordable health care for everyone. Some examples for your research there, you could go look at specifically the pre-existing conditions component. And then again, look at that Kaiser Foundation, introduce some data, whether it's pros, cons, updates on what's happening there and the impact. Again, Kaiser Foundation is a very credible and non-biased resource to use throughout the whole course. All right, some examples of how to expand your research, search, and share with leadership is just to look at some great leaders, some components of that. Usually they have some clearly defined values. Another key point here too, they have clearly defined job descriptions. You're going to have to develop those eventually, design a concrete job description from your business for project for your human resources development. Again, great leaders have clearly defined roles in the organization and consistent communication of those roles. Key point here, they inspire trust, honesty, and again, complete transparency, great communication, two-way communication. Another thing is you can look at some examples, again, some concrete examples. Steve Jobs is one here. When you do this, it's good to go back and learn their whole history, their whole bio, how they got to where they were, who impacted them or were their mentors. And then again, you can look at the video here. It's a great example of some key points for application for real success. Another thing you could look at is leadership theory. Here's some resources again. Previously, I had a career in outdoor education, and these were some of the leadership challenges and practices we use from there. Again, it doesn't have to be specifically in the health industry. We can use complementary, and that's what we're looking for, information that we can apply to the business. When we look at managers, again, some great managers, just eye for talent, understanding differences between needs and what people want. You want to encourage feedback so that both the manager and the employees are learning. Need clear expectations, effective and efficient, and then the 80-20 rule. You want to use this with the class here for your work. Focus on 20% of the tasks that are going to produce or yield 80% of the results of what's needed in your job. managing your time efficiently is what we're talking about. Some quality managers, again, communication, again, retention of quality staff, we'll get into that. Real and consistent performance evaluations, we'll talk about that as we go through. You need to motivate people by rewarding that consistently, but honestly, and then continually looking to have some growth, but also have some fun. You need to empower people to be part of the leadership. Again, you can hear me talk about this all the time with projects. It's the quality of the project, not the quantity. Again, we can learn from what not to do. The textbooks talks about poor manager habits. Again, you can do some research and share some points on that for your research share or search and share. Different things we can then look at different types of managers. This is an interpersonal manager role, figurehead. Look at the strengths and weaknesses. You can look at the informational manager role, again, strengths and weaknesses there. Look at a decisional manager. Again, define that, what its strengths and weaknesses are and how it could apply to our business design. Last then, leaders and managers. Got to talk about, you could look at, is there a difference? And if there is, what is it? Or do you as an owner need to be both of those? Wear both hats. One thing I like to think about managers versus leaders is managers look inward, kind of from the inside out. They're doing the daily workings of the organization, where leaders look outward, kind of the big picture, the vision, working outside in. Another area you're going to need to address in Project 3, again, is situational leadership theories. Again, situational leadership is just the idea that you'll change your style when it's dependent on what your culture, your staff, your employees, your clients need at that time. So again, these are 3 different styles kind of used in the coaching of sport realm. Again, the situational leadership model, Hershey and Blanchard, it's the ability to read what type of group you have and kind of what's needed at that time. Good model here then again is just, you can see there's different times you need to be supporting, coaching, delegating, and directing. Again, this is a great area to do some research, search, and expand on it and give us, share that with the group. Another one I love here is just the model is the 4 stages of a team development. And if you think of your business as a team, if you think of yourself when you've been on either a sports team or a group, an activity, you're going to go through these 4 stages where you form, and then again, typically your leadership style, your situation needs to be a little more direct, a little more commanding. Then usually there's some kind of pushback, that's the storming phase, and again, this is where we need to have that combination of commander style, but also more of that democratic or cooperative, and start to let people participate then as we go into a normalizing situation. And then finally on the upper left-hand corner, when you start to perform at a high level, you can take on really kind of a laissez-faire and empower the people to really be part of the whole leadership process. Last, how can we develop ethical business culture? Again, you come up with your vision and your goals, but you need to come up with specific strategies of how you're going to meet those goals. A couple things here is look at some industry standards, code of ethics. That's one research thing you could look at. Certifications, which we're going to address specifically in a future CPD. Staff hiring, interview process and selections, staff training, internal and external. Just what we're doing here, CPDs, continuing professional development or professional education. You can look at compensation plans, job promotions, job performance, and then your overall vision, kind of a story, how people do that. Another way to think about it is your work and environment objectives. The left-hand box is more of that recreational model, focusing on fun, focusing on learning, everybody collaborating. It's more about the process. And then the more competitive model where we're talking about the product, financial success, performance, product driven and competitive. Kind of figure out what your objectives are, what's important to you. I would argue that you probably need to find a balance in today's culture, business culture. Last, then, when we start to look at designing these businesses, we could look at ethical standards. Well, hopefully you're going to design an ethical business in the health industry. I would argue there's really Three kinds of ethics. There's no gray area. It's high or low, or you just don't have any at all. Again, this is conforming to accepted professional standards and conduct. Some principles here then is looking at moral values, respect, responsibility, great talking points and research points. Again, talking about now teaching ethical conduct. Again, look at the research end of this. Is it born, or is it something that we can learn or can be taught? And if so, how do we do that? Last, you can look at ethical dilemmas. It's a great kind of workshop. Again, looking at past experiences or situations or dilemmas that businesses in the health industry have had some dilemmas and how they've handled that. That's a great research topic that you could present that we could all share and learn and use. Thanks.